I remember when Ronnie and I first started, it was, everybody thought it was Garth Brooks and Holly Dunn, who was out at the time, you may not remember, had a hit called Daddy's Hands. They thought that's what Brooks and Dunn was, and they were shocked when we come walking through the door. I was just curious if you've had a lot of folks asking about singing Up Down with Florida Georgia Line and stuff like that.
I did, yeah. They haven't one time.
Really?
Yeah, because at the same time we were doing like one of those radio remotes things, and they had the situation where you walk in and there's like 20 radio stations in a room and you go from table to table. And they'd put us one after another. And the very first interview, he was being asked about Kiss Somebody and I was being asked about Up Down. And that's how I met the guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I love that song. I quite happily talked about it until the end of the interview. And then I was like, that's him though,
My wife is pretty convinced that Kelsey had a stunt double for your Hawaii video too, by the way. She's like, why won't he show her face? I go, there she is right there. Oh, yeah, but she's got a mask and goggles on. Okay, all right,
Look,
fine.
Hey, look, put it this way. I loved the first cut.
So, I'm so glad you two hooked up. I think I got to meet you right after y'all first came back from Australia. I do take full credit, whether you give it to me or not. I know it was just her doing the big I told you so or something. There's something, because she sat right where you're sitting right now. She was just fixing to go down there. I said, I know what you're doing. You're trolling. You're going to go find some Aussie dude and whatever. And sure enough, I'm glad it was you, though.
And here he is.
Yeah. At least she found a good dude. So I was really worried about what she was going to come back with. So
we've been together a little while, and she was like, babe, I got to show you this thing. And she showed me that video of you saying that, and I was like, it might have been before that night when I saw you. I was like, before we go down and talk to him, you need to see this video. I was like, I always loved that guy. I love that guy extra now. Yeah. So thank you.
That's good. I'm sure you get asked this all the time. Keith and Nicole, y'all buddies or whatever, have you had a chance to?
I've never met Nicole. I've met Keith a bunch of times now.
You're kidding.
No, I've never met her.
Y'all aren't going to dinner and hanging out and whatever?
Oh, no? Dude. I mean, the schedule those guys are on. I know Kelsey's on the road with Keith right now.
Too? And she's out there with him, and y'all just can't go to dinner. See, this, now I'm concerned.
Just a stitch up. Yeah.
No. Well, it seems so obvious because, so much, you really do have a lot in common. But she's sweet as she can be, and yeah, that needs to happen. I
mean, we definitely look up to them, the way they hold themselves and the way they kind of aspire to like live, as much time together as they can with their crazy worlds,
Well, I was going to ask too, because that's one of their rules. They've got like a 3-day rule. So she was doing a movie in Europe, and he had to fly over there like every 4 days. He has to make tour and whatever. So that's kind of cool. Have you and Kelsey got anything like that going on, or?
Yeah, I mean, we have a little less control over our situation than those guys do. But we started with the 2-week rule, and then there was a couple of months where like we went 2 weeks and we saw each other for a day, and then we went 2 more weeks. So it was like we saw each other for 2 days in a month, and we're like, okay, this rule doesn't work anymore. And so now we just like, I mean, we know till December, like the days we're going to see each other until December, and we've kind of like marked them off, and in case something happens, then we've got like this other.
We know the days we're going to see each other in December.
Well, until December, yeah. December's still open.
Oh, until December.
Yeah. It's pretty wild, dude. But again, you know how it is. Like she knew at the middle of last year, she knew that she was going to be on the road with Keith this year until November. Middle of last year. So you really need to start planning, or someone as busy as she is, or as busy as I'm getting, it's like, if you don't have a block on that day, something will happen on that day, And we're both at the stage in our career too where like we want to do that thing too.
Sure.
So we got to do it, and we want to be everywhere we can. So it's just a balance of all that,
You spend your whole life waiting for this opportunity.
Yeah.
And you both got to
grab it.
You both caught a wave there, and you got to surf it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, you got some other hillbilly surfer dudes. You know, you got Kip Moore and Billy Currington.
Yep.
You know, both you guys talking about boards and whatever like that.
I do chat to Kip about surfing whenever I see him. Yeah, I've only met Billy once, and it was at an award show, so we didn't really like hang out.
What level surfer would you consider yourself?
Very mediocre.
Yeah,
I do it for fun. Yeah, I love it.
But big waves where you come from?
Sometimes, yeah.
Some places.
Definitely not like big wave surfer though. You know, those guys in Hawaii are nuts. But yeah, it was like the thing that I did, and I'm still trying to find a replacement for it too here. You know, it was the thing that I did every day when I woke up. I would go to the beach and do that for an hour or something like that, come back, start my day, you know?
Yeah.
It was that kind of thing. And so yeah, it was just a part of my life more than like a sport that I would pursue or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you have a main hobby now? Out there on the road, do you have anything that you're just like...
I'm not on a bus or anything, so my hobby is kind of going to the airport.
You're flying all this
getting
stuff?
on the next plane, yeah. So that's kind of my thing right now. And I've just been home the last 3 days, which is amazing because I actually got to sleep and stuff like that. But the way that I perform live now is with this loop pedal station. And so it's basically this pedal that you record short sections of music.
I've seen you do that, like Ed Sheeran does that too.
Exactly.
Did he kind of inspire that, or how'd you get into that?
It's funny.
Because I have a loop station. I suck at it.
It's not easy to learn, you know. It's like one of those things that when you learn, though, it kind of becomes almost second nature. But man, I had a band in Australia, and then when I moved here, they didn't move with me. And I tried to replace them, and we would go do weekends here and there, but then like the drummer wasn't available or the bass player wasn't. And I was like, this is just not the way that I like to play music, you know. And I had this loop station that I got just to write with at home, and then I saw that Ed Sheeran was doing that, and it made me think, well, maybe I could take this to a show and do it. And I did one show and did another one, and now this thing is like this big. and
the loops are getting bigger.
The loops are getting bigger. The crowds are getting bigger. And honestly, it's one of those things I thought, I'll do this just till the end of the year, and I'll do this till the end of the year. And now I'm like, I love doing this.
Yeah. And I love your new song, American, which is she's American. And I did want to ask you, do you question yourself like, you know, some of the guys I grew up, like Bobby Braddock and people like that, you know, grew up writing in the same house with them. And, I mean, writing with Bobby, he is adamant about exact rhyming. A lot of old school writers are that way, you know.
Yeah.
And I think you, if I'm not mistaken, you rhyme like American with everything. Now, do you...
I definitely rhyme with bean.
Yeah.
American and bean. Yeah.
Is that an Australian thing that you can...
Maryland, American. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know, man. I think one thing that I learned, like, as a songwriter, when I first started coming to this town, and even for the first couple of years I lived here, I was like, I'm going to write the best song in town today, you know? And, like, it took me way too long to realize it. But, like, no, I am not going to write the best song in town today, you know? There are other guys in this town that are much better at that. And so my job is, especially as an artist, is to bring, like, my perspective, my story, all that kind of thing. And so I think more and more in my songwriting, it's been about just telling that story as honestly as possible, rather than like trying to like write the perfect song, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's guys out there, as you know, that can just almost do it in their sleep. You can watch them in the room, and you're like, what? How are you doing that? You know?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's a great song. I love it, and I got to assume Kelsea has to have inspired that. Hopefully you didn't write that like 3 years ago and just tell her that that's like her song and all that kind of thing, and she finds out later. And then the fact that you only see her once a month, this whole thing blows up really big, and next thing you know, you're, you know, in style on the cover in Kroger, and it's like, what happened?
It all started and ended on the American Country Countdown. Yeah, man. No, that's one of my favorite songs as a songwriter, because despite the rhyming issues, obviously, I love the way that I've managed to talk about the great experiences that I've had in this country, but also from a perspective that I feel comfortable, not, obviously not being an American, but appreciating that, you know what I mean? And whether that's through the eyes of the girl or the eyes of being on the road or whatever, I love that I can go on stage and I can sing about that. And I made a song where I can do that without not being real,
What's the difference between American girls and Australian women?
That's probably a perspective. That's probably a perspective thing too. I've only experienced meeting Americans as an Australian, and I've only experienced Australians as an Australian. You know what I mean? And so, especially here in this town, when I first started coming, people would just be like interested. We're like, you talk funny. Tell me about you, And so,
what are you doing?
Yeah. And so it was always this like, you already had this like first 5 minutes of conversation. So everyone seemed so friendly, and it was so easy to meet people and talk to people and all that kind of thing. And in Australia, you just like, you're the dude next to the other dude, next to the other guy and whatever. So I don't know if there's any, the more I try to generalize things, I can't really.
Yeah, I think you're right. And as soon as I asked the question, my wheels started turning going, well, I guess it depends where you are in America too.
Well, absolutely. I think more than anything, if I've learned anything about this country, is that like, it's almost different countries. Yeah. Like if you're in the middle of Texas or if you're in New York City, like they're different places.
And a lot of population.
Yeah.
Because, and I had the same experience in Australia. I mean, I had a ball over there. But, we only hit places where we could really do shows that would pay for us to make a trip like that with all our stuff. And so we played Sydney, we played Melbourne, we played Brisbane, we played Perth. It was really Australia has a really cool kind of, it's not unlike Canada in a lot of ways, very liberal kind of vibe in the cities. I know, because I have quite a few Australians that I've worked with that have worked at our farm where Barbara has a bunch of horses and, a lot of great horsemen, especially in the Western and Cutting, which she does, These guys are hardcore rednecks.
Yeah.
They are. But then in the city, it was very liberal, and these huge plazas in Brisbane and Melbourne, and where people are just day drinking, and thousands of people just hanging out, partying and having a great time. I had a ball in those places.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, but you travel around America, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is when you have population centers, which there seem to be a lot more in America, you have Australia, you have these huge spans of country. Not much, but East Coast, West Coast, South, and North, there's huge populations that kind of develop their own attitudes, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So, you go to Chicago, it feels totally different than Portland, Oregon. You go to New York or Boston, totally different than when you go to New Orleans or Florida, Tampa, Miami. It's just all these different vibes.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. It makes it so interesting to travel around this country because it can be like that. 3 days in a row, you can be like, whoa, we're in Miami. Whoa, we're in New York. Whoa, we're in like North Dakota,
Have you had a biggest eye-opener about this place is crazy, or I love this, I love the attitude here, I got to come back and spend some real time?
Yeah, there's been a couple of places like that. And you know what? It's been kind of by accident. Like we've had, just with Kelsey and I, we're like, okay, we're here, and then we're here, and then we have 2 days off. Let's not fly all the way back to Nashville and waste a day flying. Let's go and hang out here. And so like we spent like a day and a half or almost 2 days in Oklahoma City, which is not like a holiday destination at all. And we had the best time there.
Yeah.
Like we had the best time just traveling around, like look up, like what's a cool thing to do? And you know what I mean? And having experiences like that. And then like we ended up she shot a video over near Big Sur, the national park.
Oh yeah.
And so
beautiful.
Like she was out there, similar story. Like I was out on the West Coast and we're like, I'm just going to come up there for 2 days. And we stayed up around like Monterey kind of area. Sure. And like that's just beautiful
crazy
up there.
Yeah.
It does not look like the same country as Oklahoma City or Nashville, but you're walking along, there's like all the sea lions and stuff up on there, and just it's cool just getting to do different things like that, and there's like hundreds of those things to do in this country. So I'm looking forward to getting to.
Have you read
do
Big
more.
Sur by Kerouac?
No,
It's
I should.
yeah, it's from kind of the beatnik era from the '60s, but it was a Bible for that era back then.
Okay.
Very hipster, you know. It's
Okay.
He had a real cool style. It's kind of a famous book. Well, I'll let you up, man. It's good catching up a little bit, and
Yeah, thanks, man.
if you do see her again, hopefully,
One
tell
of these
Kelsey
days.
I said hey.
Yeah, I will. Thanks, mate.
All right. Thanks for coming.
Cheers, Kix.